name is Amy Lassiter-Willie, and I'm very pleased to share with you my article, The Presentation of the Chef in Everyday Life. The impetus of the project from which this article comes was that I wanted to see what was happening to the individual people involved in Peru's gastronomy boom. If you're a foodie or you're into food in any way, you might be aware of the fact that Peru has this very efflorescent culinary scene. Peruvian food is becoming a really big deal. And my question was, if there's this emerging industry, what's happening to the people who are involved in it, who's benefiting from it, and what's happening to the everyday workers who are a part of it? And so to find that out, I went to the place that was training those workers, which was two mid-priced culinary schools in Lima. And as an anthropologist, what I did was I basically became one of those students. I went in every day and went to school. I took my chef's knife and I took my towel and I took my fork and my checkered pants. But I also took with me a research question. And the research question was this: in a lot of studies about schooling and lots of studies about the Andes, people find that even when industries change or even when opportunities seem to present themselves for marginalized groups to advance, it turns out that they actually stay marginalized. And my question was whether or not that was happening here, whether or not there really was some kind of change. And as a student in those schools, I felt very keenly when I realized that it wasn't really happening exactly the way that that it might be, that marginalized groups weren't necessarily staying marginalized. Instead, what I saw was that these schools were drawing on elements that were traditionally used as markers of race or class, so things like traditional indigenous flavors or languages or specific ways of behaving, which is what I focus on in the article. And they were finding ways that they could symbolize all of Peru or to sell all of Peru. And so what was happening on an individual level is that in this movement to create a particularly Peruvian chef, so someone who has sort of indigenous characteristics, but also is cognizant of international standards and culinary techniques, it was changing people, but it wasn't completely replicating the existing social hierarchies. There were people who could advance and be part of this sort of a new Peruvian personhood who wouldn't have been able to before. And so what I saw was a remaking not only of individual people, but what it means to be Peruvian in the global economy, which was combinations of traditionally lower class things and elements that once had been associated with Europe. And what was really interesting was that the people that I met in these schools expected that to happen. They thought they were there to learn to cook, but they also thought that they were there to learn to be different people. So I hope you enjoy reading this article in which I explain exactly how this takes place.